was cutting the slices so thin, man. I said, what happened? Yeah, but him said, no, man, because I know everybody will come afterwards, so I'm making sure that that there is going to be sufficient. But it was good, and you know, I know Lowell can, our producer can relate to that. When you see your children just maturing, because he has adult
So,
children, you just see them
Lowell
grow up.
can relate to it and I can't? What is that?
No, because hold on.
Yes, all right, we're taking a 6:30 break. So Pastor can repent in privacy.
I'll repent.
Welcome back. And of course, we thank you for joining us. This is Thursday morning. We call it Free Flowing Thursday
It's not gonna be free
because
flow.
on Thursdays, we get to just wrap up on some of the issues we've been talking about Monday too. And we generally have a guest in house, and we're very pleased that this morning we are going to be joined by none other than Miss Lasonja
Harrison.
Harrison,
JT
a lady
Express.
who's making name and waves, a name for herself
No
and
fear.
waves.
She said, no fear.
Being, yes. And of course, we stand with those members of the public service who are seeking to get a fair share of the compensation package. There has been extensive reform, and the teachers, we know the RGD staff, the police, there are some important factions of the workforce, the public service workforce, who are yet to have arrived at an agreement with the government. I had occasion recently to explain how employment law and how the workforce is treated under Jamaica, still a democracy, still holding to the rule of law, though many elements of what we do have put things in question. But it is one of the downside to this post-colonial existence that the protections for workers are not executed at the highest level, meaning it's not in statute law. A lot of things remain in codes. And when it comes to the public sector, it seems almost as if it is a little one step away from slavery. The idea that bargaining for compensation can be done under the gun, that the government can tell you, you have 6 weeks to come to an agreement with us, or we're going to penalize you by not paying you promptly. We are going to stretch out the payment over whatever period of time. To me, it's unacceptable.
And it should not have.
Yeah.
It should not have, in all good conscience. You, how can you do that to a significant part of
Your body.
your body? Yes, it's,
The civic body. Yeah.
how can you do that?
Yeah.
Can the eye say to the foot, you're not worth anything?
Or I have no part of you, you have no part of me.
Yes.
Well, the eye will stay right where it is in the head and can't go nowhere.
Can't go nowhere, can't move at all.
That's
It's
true.
interesting.
Yeah.
It's interesting that, but it is true. You cannot. How can you, in all good conscience? And I think the minister of
Finance.
I think his parents are teachers, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, if they're alive, they should be turning in their grave.
How can you say that? And it seems that our leaders have become intoxicated. I don't know what it is that they're intoxicated with, but it seems like something has gotten to them.
Yeah.
And yesterday, just to place it somewhere, where do you put your trust in when these circumstances are happening to you? Some are brought down and fallen, but we are risen and stand. Some trust in charge, some in horses.
Yeah,
But we remember the name of the Lord, our God. And I just keep reminding us as a people a lot of things. And you were just sharing your personal thing in terms of when it happened
to us in court yesterday.
Yeah. And even beyond that, in terms of what do you put your trust in when you see the circumstance you relate it to internal and external, and then but ultimately your trust is in God to do what is right, to do what is just, to do what is righteous. And that is what I believe a lot of the Jamaican population is saying to the government. You've asked us for a long time to hold straight, to do good, what is good for the country. But if you follow the actions of our leaders across the board, okay, do what I say, but not what I do. And that is why I think there is so much mistrust between what the leaders say and so on. And now this morning, hey, look like we've been talking a long time. Remember, you said a week ago we spoke about the postponement of
Local
the local
government
and what it
election.
means. Yeah, yeah, you know, in terms of here somebody is echoing what you said about democracy and the
Oh,
process.
you're
Yeah?
talking about the
So J
PSOJ.
call, it look like them wake up. If they
Well,
never saw it.
yeah, two things that are sort of coming to the fore. And you know what? We have to remember who we are. We are the watchmen on the wall. The watchmen will see things first.
Yes.
Because of the vantage point that you occupy. And our job really, or maybe I should say our duty,
Yes.
is to call it out and call it out within a context that allows persons to deal with it in a proper way.
In the right way, yeah.
Yes. When you're caught off guard by certain events, your reaction can put you in greater trouble than the event itself. And it's one of the things we don't want for our nation. Lest anyone think that what we're doing is scandal mongering,
No, sir.
or
Fear mongering, none of
or
those things.
fear mongering, or it's meant to be disruptive without purpose. Persons who stand in the position that we occupy, our job is to chant a path to repentance.
Chant a
And I
song.
was deliberate in saying chant so that the producer could dance off screen. But that's the idea. The idea is not so as to bring awareness to judgment or to bring to fulfillment the harsh consequences of judgment or misbehavior. It really is to avert disaster.
That is what it is about.
It's to avert disaster. So things are happening. Yesterday, as I was doing the declarations, I was telling Lowell that sometimes when I'm doing those declarations, I'm not really in studio with you. It's like I'm in another place. Because
You're
I
in the
know
courts. You're in the
I
courts,
know
sister.
what we're seeking to
You're
accomplish.
in the courts. You
Yep.
know, you're in the courts of heaven.
And it's weird because you're there, but you're not there. And when I spoke about claiming the benefits of nationhood, my spirit said to me, Minette, you need to talk through what are these benefits of nationhood? Because there are some things to which you are naturally entitled by reason of your existence in this realm. You must have clean air, fresh air, so you can breathe because your body requires it. You need food from the land because your body has to be sustained and nurtured by the land. You know, these are some basic things which you are entitled to have by virtue of your existence. You don't need to be Jamaican to have it. You don't need to be American to have it. You don't need to be Chinese, Indian. Your ethnicity is of no relevance to these things which you require.
You just have to be a human being.
You just need to be a human being who is still upright.
Yes.
And you know what? If you're dead too and you're just a body, it's a burial of some sort is in order. At that time, no, it's not for you. It's really for those who don't need to be.
Remain.
It's for those who remain.
And as you talk about that, I think a significant thing as we just go overseas, they told 36,000 still rising. There are a lot of people who are just waiting and hoping that a body comes, that they can bring closure.
That they can bury.
Yeah,
so you see, even when you're dead, there are some things that are practically guaranteed.
Yeah.
Okay, that being so, you now have to understand what is it then that nationhood, being a part of a nation, what does it benefit me to say I am Jamaican as opposed to I am American or I am Trinidadian? Or even if you want to get a little bigger and say I am a CARICOM, I'm a citizen of CARICOM.
A citizen of the world.
Every passport comes with some benefits.
Correct.
It brings some obligations too.
Yes.
But it comes with benefits. Can you wake up a Jamaican in the middle of the night and say, what's the benefit of being Jamaican? How many Jamaicans you think have a concept of what it is to be Jamaican? What am I entitled to as a Jamaican? So when I was doing the declarations yesterday, That was the instruction I got. Minette, you need to go through what are the benefits. When you say claim the benefits of nationhood, what does that mean? If you were a Jewish person, you know that it meant you're under the Abrahamic covenant, and it comes with certain things that you must do for each other and that belongs to you. Jamaica, being Jamaican, has a meaning. It has a meaning literally, as in there's a meaning that it holds right now. There's a meaning that it holds prospectively, meaning the vision that we have of ourselves, who we want to be, and how we get there. That's a meaning that it has. There's a meaning it has historically. And if you, as a Jamaican, right now, look at those various meanings and can't find a place for yourself, that's a problem for the nation. And in many ways, this lack of identity or this lack of understanding the good things about who we are in this country is causing a great deal of problem.
What it means even.
Yeah. If you and I have the same concept of being Jamaican, you and I will fight for the same things, support the same objectives, broadly speaking. And we would ensure to some extent that the vision we have of our family, because every family, you had your family night last night, and I know that you and the missus, you look at your 3 children, you have a dream for each of them. You see them fitting in a space somewhere, whether in this country or in the world, and you want to put your shoulders behind whatever effort is underway to bring that dream to reality. When I look at my son, that's what I see. I look at my children. One is in music. You want to see the arts and culture develop in a way that allows him to express himself and be prosperous in doing so. One is in medicine. You want to see the Ministry of Health and the healthcare environment be developed in a way that allows her to work safely and profitably. One is in social media, marketing. Do you understand what I'm saying? If you look at your children and place them in the different industries that form the economy, you begin to see what you want to pull from the nation and what you want to support and build. Because really, if you start from family, what you do, what you dream of, is for the prosperity and growth of your family. Do you see where I'm going with this?
No, it's so important in terms of what it means, part of this nation, what it is you want, what it is you see, what are the benefits.
So we're focused on the benefits. A lot of us know, you pay taxes, you should vote, but then you fret over who you're going to vote for and what's coming up the pike. People, that the roads should be in a certain condition and should be safe. There are some things we know, but those are just on the surface. The things that really make a difference are the things that come from the heart and the things you want to put your thoughts and your resources behind. So there is an important occasion and necessity to talk about those things. One big piece of it is the recognition that we desire to be in a democracy. That's the desire, which means we don't want a totalitarian government where we can't, or authoritarian, or we don't want any kind of leadership that does not respond to us. We can't choose them. We can't change them. They don't consult with us. We want to be included in the process of government.
Okay.
I think that remains true for Jamaica. There are some people who speak with great nostalgia about the crown. And some have a belief that, the British monarchy is kind of a super parent, or at the very least, a kind nanny who is going to take us to our bosom every now and then, scold us, but generally going to make sure we go to bed on time, have our meals, and, we are clean.
Okay.
Which, I don't think the crown wants to be called a nanny.
Not
but,
anymore.
But the kind of relationship we have is more like, I would say, a nice auntie, but very distant. In other words, they're not really safeguarding your morality or making sure that the roads are safe and crime is kept in check, or they're not really involved in our day-to-day affairs, but they're still there. I don't know what kind. There's people who still think that that's a good way to be. Even where the Privy Council is concerned,
Oh, okay.
there are those who think, because if you look at the Privy Council is like a distant parent who, when you behave really bad, they send down some instructions
I say,
to bring
no,
you back in
David,
line.
David,
I say, you guys need to behave better down there. So some people still want to hold on to that. There are others of us, myself included, who feel that we should make our own justice, decide on our own problems, resolve them in a way that is in keeping with who we are. And if we don't like how it's shaping up, we change that.
But you know, as you speak about that, I'm just thinking, if you believe, for those who still want the nanny to come and instruct and say, behave yourself.
Pat you on your head or
If
take away your toys.
If the nanny has done her job well,
Yeah,
it's supposed to be able
they
to
let you go.
break free.
Absolutely.
And to say, no, nanny, thanks, because the kids grow up.
Send her
Remember
a gift at Christmas and invite her to
Thank
special
you very
events.
much.
But you're good.
Oh, you're good to go.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm one who believes for a very long time, as a Jamaican, but even having been exposed to the Caribbean at
University
youth,
level,
they
yeah.
say, no, man, we can do this.
Of course we can.
We can trust each other. We know what are the real issues, and we can trust the other person to pass good judgment and to say, yeah,
But you know,
I think that's how it
but
must
you
be.
know, you know what gets me, Percy? It's what it says to me now. When we refuse to do our own problem solving, you're really telling me that I should live with another man's mistake rather than my own. That's the part that rubs me. I would rather live with a local mistake than one imposed on me by a foreigner. I don't look at it in terms of the good law that comes out, because to me, that's your due. That a man does his job well is your due, because that you've engaged him to do that. I test it based on when they don't get it right. I would rather live with Percy's mistake than another person's mistake, because I know you. And I can say, Percy, you went wrong in this or that area. Or I can say, what was in your mind when you took it in this direction? And if you are in a good relationship with me, you can say, well, Minute, I was influenced by this or that. And if there's some challenge with it, I'd say, but you didn't notice that XYZ? We have dialogue. Dialogue takes place.
We can touch you, and we're in relationship.
Absolutely, we're in relationship.
And we talk to each other.
I don't think persons realize that a judge, a good judge, is observing and interpreting the flow, the temperature of the society and the context of the society in which they live. A good judge. If you not live with me, what I said, something about Simeon.
Come live with me, two
different things.
Yeah.
If you're not living with me, what can you offer that is going to be resonant with my experience? The Privy Council men them over there. You think law exists? You think lords. I mean, people behave as if law. There's a room where there's law and you can pull from it. Law come out of the belly of the people.
Right, that's what you pointed out to me.
But doesn't it make sense?
Yes, because you said if we agree on something together and this is how we think we must go,
it becomes a policy.
And if the policy we have agreed on is not working, that's when you put it into law. So those who walk outside of it can say, remember, so we did agree that
absolutely.
How we should behave ourselves.
And that's the foundation of any covenant.
Yes.
Any covenant relationship begins with some understanding of what works for both of us. And we put structures in place now.
Put the boundaries and all of it.
We put the boundaries. So that's the part that
gets you.
That gets me.
That gets you.
I'm like, listen, I don't want no Privy Council. I get it wrong. You know, I was on my personal affairs now. Someone said to me, why didn't you appeal to the Privy Council in your case?
For what?
With me and the JLC and then the Court of Appeal, the Court of Appeal set aside the JLC's ruling but left the punishment in place.
That don't make sense. What that
And
mean?
so, right. So persons who are now seeing it and understanding it are saying to me, why didn't you appeal? I say, if my Court of Appeal got it wrong, I need to work on that here. The why they got it wrong and reversal of the mindset that got it wrong will fix that problem for somebody in the future. And I'm interested in that.
Okay.
But I could never be trash talking the Privy Council
And then go to them.
and then go to them. Oh my God.
You are not the woman of integrity.
Not at all. Between the two, okay, the full court said this and the Court of Appeal said that, and we said this, and they said it briefly. The long and short of it is our two courts had got it right. Between the two of them, they had got
I
it
mean,
right.
in terms of the whole thing, in terms of...
Should lawyers be subject to POCA regulation? Of course, lawyers should be subject to it.
But I tell people, you know, minute. To me, integrity is simple. For me, what you say is what you do.
What you do,
You cannot...
whether you're being seen or
about
not.
that. Yeah. And even more important, you can't be saying something and doing otherwise. And that it is a crisis that we face in our country at all levels. That's what we must call it out, you know. We must call it out. That's what it is. We have a crisis of integrity. And if you have a crisis of integrity, you have a crisis of trust. Because they are related. They're related. It don't exist.
You know, there's a chicken and egg situation here with trust and integrity, and you begin to wonder what came first. Because if people behave in a way that makes them not worthy of your trust, you're going to withdraw your trust.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if people don't trust you anyway, you're going to do what you feel like doing. Because what does it matter? They don't believe that you're doing the right thing by them anyway. And there are times when I see that with the government. I see our government, and not necessarily this administration, but I've seen good ideas come to the table, but with such timidity and trepidation.
Why?
Because
you know
the people don't, you just know. Yeah. So they just go through the motions sometimes, and it cannot. You know, it falls on deaf ears.
And
as a consequence, the one thing breeds the other, and it becomes self-perpetuating. But we're gonna break that cycle. I think we are breaking that cycle.
I declare that. I accept that. That I believe.
Yes.
And therefore I speak. Words again. I believe, therefore I speak and I declare. Even as we prayed yesterday.
Yeah.
We have an expectation. Expect the great change, and we see it happening as we come up on our break this morning. That hello, minute, a year and a half we are talking about the same thing, you know.
Yeah, we're gonna speak for. We're just doing it for a year and a half. Others have been doing it
for a long time,
for decades.
And now we're beginning to.
And we have to see how we hand it over, because there's always a need for someone to be doing exactly what we do, because we're pressing towards a level of performance that really is unattainable in this realm, but you will never rise higher unless you press for that high standard.
Mark of the high calling, which
always.
Is in Christ Jesus. We
always.
Forget what is behind, and we are pressing ahead.
We're pressing.
We are pressed.
When we come back from our 7 o'clock break, we're going to look at what the PSOJ is saying. I applaud them for finally joining in the narrative concerning the threat to democracy. That is what I called it a few weeks ago, that it is a threat to democracy. And whatever it is we need to do as a nation to contain that threat, it's time to act. So we're taking our 7 o'clock break, and we'll be right back.
The Morning Connection is not your usual talk show.
Welcome back. So, do I put that question on air, the one you asked me? No,
No,
I'm
we're not gonna
kidding.
do that one then.
No, we're going to look now at what the PSOJ has rightly characterized as a potential threat to democracy. My word, they say, the headline says, PSOJ says, Further postponement of local government elections would hurt democracy.
And before you go into that, I really want to applaud them. Probably late to the game.
Applaud them.
Yes, applaud them. Probably late to the game, but at least they have
shown
recognized.
up.
They have shown up.
They've
They have
arrived.
recognized that hey, something is amiss here. And you remember yesterday we were looking at the office of the Prime Minister and the things that are
How overburdened it is.
not beyond overburden, but to refer to the fact that it is under the direct responsibility of his office, the EOJ, and if it was something of priority, then he would have said,
Of course.
"Oh, yes."
That
So
made the
very much
resources
available.
available.
Yes, man. So,
Yeah. So that's an important point you just made there, that the Electoral Office of Jamaica sits in the PM's office, meaning he has responsibility,
responsibility.
as part of his portfolio. And it makes sense. He's the one that sets the date for election, and it generally, the things that are of primary importance in the life of the nation would stay under the watchful eyes of the Prime Minister. So, for example, though we have a Minister of National Security,
Defense forces.
Defense Force is under the PM because he guards our boundaries. No
Yeah.
one should invade us or
And
take
he's the Minister
advantage
of
of
National
us.
Defense.
If there were a spy balloon flying over Jamaica, it would be his responsibility to shoot it down.
To say to
shoot it
the
down.
lady, what's her
Absolutely.
name?
Wims Gorman.
Wigs Gorman. You need to stand up the aircraft to shoot it down. Whether it's a helicopter
In
or
our
you
case,
play.
probably would be a big catapult to take it down. I think we have no fighter jet to scramble the jets.
Just and take it down.
Or more likely, make the phone call to the Americans to scramble a jet
and take it down.
and take it down. So that's a big deal, and it would fall under his remit. But similarly, when it is under his remit and it does not get the resources that it needs to do its job on time, it is a clear signal of the
Dereliction of
priority,
duty.
the priority that him fix on it. And it is not a priority for this Prime Minister
Right at this point
to
in
have
time.
the people express their will in the form of the local government elections. I thought for a moment you were going to look at those two letters that we got from citizens.
Yesterday.
Those, yes, the citizens of Portmore and the listener from St. Thomas,
St. Thomas.
who they just unburden themselves with a host of problems which are all
Locally.
capable of being solved. But these are local government issues.
Yeah, so we're going, okay.
So we don't have to argue, debate the need for local government elections. People have things that they need get done, and if they see that the person in the job not doing it right, they have the
voice.
right. This is one of the benefits of nationhood,
of
that
democracy.
you are included
Yes.
in the process to bring about change and to get your society moving progressively. Right, so back to the PSOJ. Described here in this article as Jamaica's most high-profile business lobby. PSOJ has criticized the Holness administration for delaying local government elections, warning that further postponement would undermine democracy. That there will be further postponement is beyond doubt, because the 28th of February looms large on the calendar.
That's 2
That
weeks
date
away.
is not going to retreat. That it is where it is. And the weeks ago, the Electoral Office of Jamaica said, if I got the money now, it couldn't be done in time. And there's been no announcement that they got the money.
Well, the budget reads, so they must get their money. Yes.
But, anyway, PSAJ says, this is both disheartening and concerning, given the importance we place on prioritizing and safeguarding all aspects of our democracy. This is from the PSOJ statement that they issued on Wednesday. The reasons cited by the government are an unacceptable stance to be taken on the implementation of such a core component of our democratic process.
Say that again. Such a what?
core component. You're not in church, you know, where you say,
Read
reader.
that, say that again for
Don't bother
emphasis.
treat me. Don't treat me like the reader.
But core.
Component, yes.
Nationhood.
Yeah. They say there is a high importance placed on this core component of our democratic process. The elections, which are constitutionally due by the end of February, should be given utmost priority by the government with necessary steps taken to have them held urgently. So this is now where we get to your chicken and egg, trust versus integrity dialectic. The PSOJ, well populated by individuals, men and women of experience and knowledge. Good morning. They, knowing that the elections are constitutionally due on the 20th of February.
Remember, the backdrop, it was postponed.
What date is it? On the 15th of February is when they're going to say that those elections should be held urgently, when it's not even possible. If you wanted to use your weight of office or influence.
Talk about it, long time.
You would be on this from December.
From December, January to say, come on, I want to go down.
Or November. Or in November,
yes,
you would be saying to the government, what is the schedule for elections? You would be checking the PSOJ, not the PSOJ, the EOJ. Do you have your funds lined up?
Yeah, right.
You would be wondering where are the people who should be in training
and so on.
The truth of the matter is, I think not even the political apparatus was focusing on getting the elections done on time. I don't even think they were working on it. Maybe only the UIC was talking about it.
No, but there seemed to have been in election mode because they were doing all of these meetings.
Yes, but
it looks like as Forty said, they got the report, you know. They got the report. They got the poll. The poll.
Yes. Yeah, but that was the opposition, not the opposition. That was for the ruling party.
Yes, right. So them said, no, this not gonna make no sense.
Let me tell you what's in my thoughts right now. Each side who's gonna contest the election is weighing its options and saying, should I press for it? Would I win? Am I in good shape?
Right.
So the impact of a delay on principles of democracy is not something that you begin to talk about unless you feel pretty sure that you're going to be the winner.
Yeah. So nobody never push
so nobody
it.
push it.
It's up in limbo.
And then the citizens themselves now need to have that awareness that, hey, we're not going to be able to express our voice if these two sides don't if they don't enter the ring. You know, like if there's going to be a boxing match, you know that something going to happen when the stage is set and you can tell that it's about to happen. When you see that those signs are not emerging, you could begin speaking up. The PSOJ is one such body that if you really were interested in democracy in and of itself, not just how will I fare in this season or another season. You understand what I'm saying?
They would have, yeah. But it's true because it's late to the game. They've come late to the game.
So they're saying the right thing at that point when it has zero impact.
Yeah. And we raised it. We raised it early and I kept commenting on it. But why I'm saying that, I recalled in the newspaper late last year, I saw the EOJ put out a thing that they're recruiting persons to be trained. But normally, if they were in full preparation, you'd see it being run. I said 1 or 2 times, and I said, elections due next year. But I never saw it again.
So that's what I'm talking about now, the signs.
Yeah.
You know the signs when the thing is stepping up and it look like they mean business. But we weren't seeing any. So here the reason given by Deputy Prime Minister Dr. Horace Chang. And I don't know why he's the one giving the reason. Shouldn't it be coming from the Prime Minister
himself?
Anyway, Deputy Prime Minister Dr. Horace Chang has cited economic challenges
Damn foolishness.
as a factor in the expected postponement of the elections, which are due by February 28th. What economic challenges?
They was singing the other day, so them good.
And this is where PSOJ says the reasons cited by the government are unacceptable. The truth of the matter is, the government has not spoken to the people about elections. EOJ made a statement. Have you heard the Prime Minister say anything?
No.
Local government elections were last held in November 2016 and were initially scheduled for late 2019. What's the cycle for local government elections again?
It's every 2 years. Every 2-3 years.
It can't be 2, 3. It's either 2 or 3.
So
It
central
sound like
is 5
3.
years. And
So it
local
sound like
government
3.
every two
It
year
sounds like
cycle.
3 because
Yeah.
they were held in 2016 and scheduled for late 2019, 17, 18, 19.
It's 3 years. 3 years, yeah.
More like 3. A general election was held in August 2020 in the midst of the pandemic. But then we had the Omicron strain in late 2021, and so the local government elections were postponed. The Senate in 2022, I'm just recapping and reminding us how we got here. The Senate in 2022 approved amendments to temporarily modify the representation of the people, postponement of elections to municipal corporations and city municipalities act to allow the polls to be put off for a further 12 months. The Electoral Office of Jamaica has disclosed that it was not fully prepared to host the local government elections within the stipulated timeline because of budgetary constraints. That spend is expected to top $1 billion. The PSOJ said in its statement that having achieved macroeconomic stability with a strong outlook, the government should complement that goal with sound governance practices. An efficient democracy depends on all stakeholders, particularly our elected officials, exercising a duty of care to ensure that good governance practices are maintained. That's very well said, and of course it could easily have been said by Minute and Percy. We've been talking about governance from the start of the year because that is the weakness, and that's where we need to put our efforts to establish good governance.
So,
The
you thought they were,
continued-
can we say that you think they've been listening to what we've been saying?
Well, I hope that the same spirit that guides us to be saying what we're saying is guiding them. So even if they're not listening,
So the same spirit
it's
at
the
work.
same spirit at work.
Yeah.
Yeah. The continued delays in holding the elections are not reflective of the fundamental principles of a free and democratic society, the private sector group said. Now, one of the things that is very admirable is just to see, it really is to see people saying the right things. But we
No,
know,
we need to be saying, we need to be doing.
we know that the true test is when you're doing and saying. Because
Integrity.
that's where integrity comes out. You know that we cannot get through the day without talking a little bit about what is transpiring. So we, on the Morning Connection, and yesterday was one of those days when we did so, we've been putting a lot of issues on the table concerning the fight against corruption, the need for accountability in our government, especially the leaders. The first declaration we make targets the leaders, the princes of this land, those who are in positions of high favor, whether they are elected or they enjoy favor with those whom we elect.
Becomes important for.
Yeah, they become the princes. Prince don't necessarily mean you're a son of the king.
No, but
in the biological sense.
But princes in terms of persons of
But
authority.
you can be the spiritual son because he shows you high favor and treats you as son, like those two persons whose names featured so strongly in the current Integrity Commission's report on the Prime Minister.
Let us leave that for after the break, before we get in.
Oh, we have 2 minutes before the break.
To the break.
All
We
right.
need to dig into it because when we went before the select committee looking at it and we
At the
heard the
Integrity
Integrity Commission, we remember somebody asked one question, I can never forget, and I said, why would he ask such a question? But he asked the question. And somebody said, don't say smoke without fire.
They were smoking in Parliament?
They were smoking. They're not supposed to be smoking in Parliament. It's a smoke-free zone. But there was fire in Parliament. Can we put some fire in the Parliament on the day in question?
Yeah.
You know?
And there is much to be said for the Integrity Commission
For doing their
kind
work.
of building up the courage
To do what they need to do.
to start. And for me, it's tip of the iceberg.
It's tip.
It has to be the
You
tip
mean
of
it's
the
going to
iceberg.
sink the Titanic?
Because if you're dealing with reports from 2006, 2009,
2006, how much years that?
when
17 years ago?
right,
17 years ago?
yes,
Oh my God. You
Yeah.
mean that my passings can come follow back on me? Is that what is happening?
that is what is happening.
But the light of God's thing is being shed even now.
Arise, shine, your light
It
has
has come.
come.
Oh, that's what you were telling me this morning.
right.
That the light is come, the light is shining. And we, as you have said, do not put our feet on the necks.
Of the enemy and behave in any unseemly
Seemly
way, because at the end of the day, we're looking at recovery and reconciliation,
and mercy.
and there's always mercy.
So, as we come to the break and we're expecting our guests, we're gonna, when we come back after the break, which is now to talk about the Integrity Commission and your whistleblower. You are the whistleblower? Or you the whistleblower, Minetti?
No.
Not you. But the fact that
What I did is not called whistleblowing.
Oh, okay.
No, what I do, you stand on the wall and you blow a trumpet. That's not a whistle. This is the trumpet. The trumpet has sounded. Let's take a break. Yeah.
Best 100 FM is the authentic voice of Jamaica, promoting your prosperity with better vibes and better music. Let us promote your goods and services for you. Advertise with us. For more information, call our office at 876-276-8935. That's 276-8935.
This is your beloved Pastor Percy from the Morning Connection. Support our commitment to Jamaica by joining us on Wednesday mornings at 7:30 when we pray for the nation. Show us you care. Advertise with us. For more information, call our offices at 876-276-8935.
Welcome to the Ligony Club. This beautiful property is nestled in the heart of New Kingston and is the single largest sporting facility in the English-speaking Caribbean. JD's Urban Pub is our resident restaurant. You can trust them with all your catering requirements. Take advantage of our excellent amenities and allow yourself to be pampered by our courteous and efficient staff in the comfort of our well-appointed and welcoming public spaces. You are being invited to make this your home away from home. Take advantage of our full-service gymnasium. Or 8 tennis courts. Feel free to wander through the gardens and enjoy the relaxing atmosphere of this oasis that remains as charming today as when we first opened our doors in in 1910, and our large-size swimming pool. 6 squash courts. In the evenings, relax with us in the lobby bar and lounge. Call or visit us today. We're excited to meet you.
Welcome back. And thank you for joining us. It is Free Flowing Thursday, and we are at the beautiful Ligony Club. I am still enjoying one of the roses that JD's Urban Pub provided as adornment for the tables. And Pastor Percival and I are just going through some of the things that are happening now. Of course, we can't get too comfortable in how we enter into discussions on things unfolding, even as we ourselves have been calling out the leaders, the princes of our land, wanting to ensure that there is true accountability. I have been just sort of meditating a bit on the right posture that we need to take. Many months ago, in anticipation of these events, we did a show on what to do when your enemy's foot is under your neck. And I'm not calling anyone my enemy in this moment, though I'm sure I have a few. It was really just to say that it is promised to us, people who suffer under oppression. So I'm referring to all Jamaicans of every stripe, creed, color, and people generally who are struggling and battling against forces that appear to be overwhelming. And you might think they will overwhelm you. Let's put it that way. It is promised to people who practice faith, who believe in God, who seek to be righteous in their behavior, notwithstanding the pressures under which they live. It is promised to such people that the day will come when God will place your enemy at your mercy. And in those moments, there is an attitude and there is righteousness that you must call forth when that moment arrives in your life personally and in your nation when it happens at the national level. Many things are unfolding in Jamaica now that is going to rock the foundations of this nation. Prepare yourself for that. Some people say earthquake coming. Earthquake mean many things, A shaking of the foundation of a nation is as much an earthquake as a shaking of the land itself. When it happens, there are many patterns and there's a lot of instructions we've been given on how you need to treat with things so that you survive and you survive well. So that being said, Percy and I have been speaking about how you should behave as a citizen when you find yourself in that position. One, we say, the foundation of God's throne, righteousness, justice, mercy.
And truth.
As the truth comes out, yes, truth is a big one.
Truth is a very big one.
Righteousness and truth are inseparable. There is no righteousness on a foundation of lies, deceit, misdirection, and abuse. No righteousness can come out of that. So truth is fundamental to it. As the truth comes out, and truth will come out in different channels. There will be the truth as to your motive. So you may be doing the right thing for the wrong reason. This is at the heart of the Machiavellian principles that Percy loved to talk about. I did bring the prince into our discussion.
Early.
Yeah, but
Prince
this
Machiavelli.
appearance of virtue, which is prized over the actuality of virtue. And case in point, the PSOJ comes at a belated hour and says, this is a threat to democracy and democracy requires priority treatment in this nation. They're appearing to speak on our behalf, because guess what? Election or no election, the PSOJ is fine.
Yeah.
Their bank account remain what it is. Their access to capital remain what it is. They live in communities that generally have good infrastructure. They have food on their table. They can pay their light bill. Their children don't suffer to go to school and those various things. So whether there's a general election, a local government election, any election at all, those who do well in this country are fine. So if they stand up to say there's a threat to democracy, rest assured it's not for themselves. Did I make that point clear enough? They are appearing to speak for us. They're a lobby group who seem to be speaking now for the well-being of the nation. It's why Percy and I call them princes, because their personal affairs are generally not affected by the things that mean life or death, roof or homelessness, food or starvation, that affect the masses of the people. So when they appear late in the day to say this is a threat to democracy, you then have to look to say, all right, they're doing the right thing, but what's the motivation? Because if you were truly motivated by the well-being of the people, you would have spoken at a time when your voice could have impact. So then someone can be doing the right thing, but you have to look at the motivation, and the truth of the motivation is what is important.
Or late in the game, them recognize that if this goes up in smoke, whether we think we are safe or not, all of us are affected. That realization might be, I think, coming to them now, but they should have
you're
to
introducing empathy and mercy now,
that they
which
should,
is where we were. That when
it-
you get to the point where your foot is on the neck of your enemy, I don't want to say.
No, but you know, I
When you
think
get to that
for a lot
point,
of them,
you
some of
do-
them
you
might
have
be
to be
saying
compassionate and
it's
merciful.
enlightened self-interest. I think that them kind of saying to themselves, if this thing really go up in smoke.
But isn't that still the truth of the motivation that you need to get to?
Yes, yeah.
Because that tells you something. It tells you that these are not persons who are going to come out fighting for you based on your need. They're only going to come out
because
when
it's enlightened, it's self-interest.
when the needs coincide.
Yeah.
And that might even influence you to bring to the table at an earlier time the coincidence of these needs.
Because remember, the former PSOJ guy,
Yeah.
who was president, the Star.
Yeah.
The starting.
Project
I
Star.
haven't heard anything about it in recent times.
Well, just the other day, they had the story of a man who says he met Star and got a job.
Okay.
So
All right.
The PR continues.
Okay.
Because, part of my concern is that it's just a well-funded PR event. But we're talking about what to do when the truth begins to come out And the nation now has to take decisions to maintain its integrity and its forward movement. You can't spend too much time trying to execute the wrongdoers. We can't all get caught up in
No, you can't do that, because it is
calling for blood.
self-destructive. Yeah,
Right.
it doesn't, it
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
And I'm just trying to remember a quote Martin Luther King Jr. said in regards to why you have this peace thing. He said, but I can't be consumed with bitterness and unforgiveness. I need to move forward because
Yeah.
that is what is holding me back. That will not hold me back. I'm just moving forward positively.
But you do need an arm
Yes.
of your apparatus that will take care of that ugly work.
Yes.
So like right now, you have the Integrity Commission need to conduct their investigations and publish their reports.
And their findings.
When they do their referrals for action to be taken and it goes into another silo, that group needs to do its work. People like you and me who call the thing into, bring it into the fore, bring it out of the shadows into the light, we need to move on to other things too.
Yeah.
We can't be spending time poring over the details or the detritus, I want to say, the debris of the destruction. We've got to move on to other things because I remember you and African talking about clear, hold, and build. After we clear and we establish a framework, we need to build. And you have to be on the team that is always pushing the agenda of God.
Yeah. That's the only team I'm on, actually.
Yes, good. So all of that is to say, we take note of what has transpired with the Prime Minister. Things are coming to the fore. They are now at 2006 to 2009. They're going to move from 2009 to some other period of time, and so on and so forth. And as these things are happening, it's not just the Prime Minister, because we call for accountability in many different areas of public life and even in the private sector. There are some persons and some jobs that are, some industries that are so important, you have to take notice of what is happening and how they interact with government. One of the interesting things about the work that the Integrity Commission does, while they have no jurisdiction over private sector entities, they are always guarding that gate between the two worlds.
Contract.
Yes. So, for example, they looked at a company, a private sector company, that was doing business, procuring contracts from government, and right in that space where the handshake is made, they saw something on which they have reported. Percy, what do you think about the opposition's response to the delays in the local government election?
Your response?
Yes.
They have responded? I just tongue in
in other
cheek.
in other words, you're not seeing anything of great force because they're the parliamentary opposition. So,
But they should have been
There's
raising it from December,
from
January, well,
last
even
year,
before,
but,
yeah.
but that's why I think self-interest. I don't think they saw themselves as having a clear path to victory.
Okay.
So, and that's the point that I was pulling out. When you're waiting on the political opponents to lead on certain things, they are each measuring their chances.
They might look at it and I say, we look.
Yeah. And that's why we can't leave it to them when it is something that affects our voice.
But haven't we been saying that? We've been telling people you take responsibility.
Wake up and take responsibility
for yourself, because the truth is, it's not self-interest, motivation, self-interest.
Straight up, just gave us a comparable here. He says, "Good morning, hosts. The black woman mayor of Lucy, Shernette Houghton, had to resign because of the same accusations." Yeah. So
remember her, yeah, man, and she grew, and then when it went, she They say nothing criminal happened.
Yeah.
But
We're coming to that. I think you want to deal with it more in the after the 8 o'clock hour.
because remember we
People's National Party President Mark Golding has accused the Holness administration of disturbing legislation that was passed twice, resulting in the postponement of local government elections. Now he used the word disturbing, but and this is a problem I have with our parliamentary opposition. They're just not bold enough. If the Prime Minister, by the weight of the numbers he has in Parliament, pushes through legislation which breaches the Constitution, why wouldn't the parliamentary opposition be all over it in court? Move it into the next silo of power, which is the judiciary, that breaks any deadlock that arise in the House. I don't understand why all he's talking about is disturbing. Oh, disturbing is not even. If the thing is unlawful, call it what it is. If even you don't succeed, but you want clarity on the issue, bring it to the court.
But then you're not a politician, are you?
Oh, me? No, I'm not. I'm people.
No, I raised that question because I remember you went to a confab and you were saying, but you were talking to some political thing and you said, they said something and you never saw it the way that they saw it, but they say I'm thinking as a politician. Because we don't think in terms of the politics of it. We are just thinking in terms of straight. We are just thinking straight principle and how does the principle apply. And we always speak about principles, wrong, right, moral opinions. And so for us, we say, well.
But why I say they lack boldness. And the truth is, something happened in Parliament like that, any citizen could pick it up. But citizen A and citizen B don't have the same luck. Case in point, we were in court last year concerning the alleged breach of constitutional right of a citizen who said, you called me some nasty names based on rumors, and you used those names and those rumors to shut me out of carrying on or
lawful
participating
business,
in a business which requires a government license. You use those rumors to say I am an unfit person and you block me from doing the business. When we were in court, it became clear that yes, he was blocked from doing the business, and yes, those are rumors for which there's no substance that can be produced, and yes, the police does carry out some kind of intelligence gathering function, and they keep it, and 40 years, they keep it forever. They said there is no way to take something out of that system into which you put your intelligence that you gather. So that was the citizens' experience. And the full court says, it's reasonable for the police to behave in that way in an attempt to safeguard
national security,
the security of the country. Yes, they said, no, that's quite reasonable. We see no problem with that. The police doing that serves a greater purpose than the value of your reputation that you're complaining about. And in a democratic society, that's fine. Your rights have not been violated. And then you know what they did? They turned around and said the citizen must pay the government for responding to his complaint. So random citizen goes up against the government. You risk the court saying that you need to pay for it. And the first claim that came by letter, one of the lawyers who represented the government agency wrote and said, can we agree cost in the sum of $16 million? So a citizen who takes the government to court to protect constitutional rights, and is something that would affect everybody because he's not the only citizen who has been accused of having an adverse trace. Right now, probably, I would say the Prime Minister has now acquired an adverse trace by reason of these findings against him. So, if you, as an ordinary citizen, attempt to prosecute these matters which are of national significance, you run the risk of the court, very spitefully, I think, telling you that you must cover the cost. So, it's not the same, however, if the parliamentary opposition
Does it?
takes a matter to court
Okay.
that is for the benefit of every citizen who could get up and say, my constitutional rights are being violated by reason of the government not calling elections. I am living in a community where the councillor is doing nothing that meets the needs of the community, and we need to change him.
And it is true. That's why you have political parties, because they have to represent.
They represent.
They represent the
Yeah.
people versus Percival Palmer, who do have no money. You got to do that.
And here
you
the
do
lawyer
that, you
write
would
you and say,
you have to pay them costs because
$16 million, the court ordered it, in spite of the law clear on the books that say, unless a citizen is unreasonable in bringing a complaint, he should not be made to pay costs when he loses.
that's what the law says.
That's what the law says.
So why they doing it?
To spite him. And probably spite me because me encourage him to do it.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Listen,
So
man.
so therefore, when a complaint goes up and a litany of woes goes up and say, we're living in two Jamaicas and the justice not
Not
being
the
split
same. Yeah.
But it is then a real concern for most, if not all, Jamaicans.
Right. So to me now, the only way you can prove that a man is unworthy of the seat he occupies is by pressing him to make decisions. Each decision he makes reveals who he is.
Yeah.
And then if we are truly in a democracy, people should see the decisions that are being made and realize, but this is not in my favor. This thing needs to change. Have you noticed that every black man who go up for something don't get it? Or have you noticed that every white man who go over there so get punished? That's the only way you're going to be able to say, look at what is being expressed and interpret its meaning so you can take decision as a democratic nation.
Because it and so you just gone right to the root of the challenges we're having in this country. If we are able to fix the justice system in a real way, then a lot of problems that we are having would just over time dissipate.
Would resolve. Yeah, they would be resolved. They're almost like self-resolution. You remember yesterday we spoke about the inmate who, through his attorney, Mr. Hugh Wildman, has filed an application
against the DPP.
Against the extension of a contract for the DPP. If you are a reader of the tea leaves, like all me now, who like to
tea leaf reader.
Oh yes, me a tea leaf reader, me a chicken belly reader. I am a seer. I see things, and I see things in the most simple, whatever configuration you put it in. I can see what you're trying to accomplish 10 steps down the road. So I look at that application and I understand that with the Prime Minister now in the crosshairs for prosecution by the DPP, who sits in that office is very important.
But that is still really not that just a...
No, the application to remove her, the application to block the government's hand in extending her lifespan ties in very
nicely.
Well, said nicely.
It fits in terms of everything is coming together.
Everything is coming together. Because would the Prime Minister extend the tenure of a woman who is believed to be vulnerable to manipulation by the government, who has to take a decision on whether or not he is to be prosecuted? That's the question.
And that's a wonderful question, but I even pose another thing into all of what is happening.
What is the other thing you're
Father
praising?
look down and him a laugh.
Oh, well, you
Him
know,
a look down and a laugh, and then he says, let me throw another thing into this picture. Let me throw something else. What if, with all of what the things happening, we hear, oh, we will regret to announce the sudden passing of so and so and so.
well, we're expecting that too. And
You know that God has done. I've seen him do that so many times in terms of people who are strutting and going about their way, and him say, "Oh, all right,
bring him home.
yes."
Call him to the head office.
Yes, call. I'm calling him out to the head office.
You get a call to report to head office.
Or you've been assigned.
Yeah. But you
You've been
know,
reassigned.
last night in our group, a lady told a story of her personal experience that was just amazing.
You're going on to the story.
Going on to that story. She was living in a house that she basically fixed up, do everything with it, and she's still paying rent same way. When she became a Christian, she got some instructions to go into the backyard and just pray. And at the end of it, she heard, this house is yours. And she wondering, how that going to happen? She said, all right, maybe I need to buy it. So she went and she applied to NHT for loan and whatnot. And in the middle of the process, she lost her job.
Yes.
So now she cannot manage to make an offer for the house. She went into deeper prayer and she was told by one of her
prayer partners.
Yes. The Lord says, why do you think he needs help?
Okay.
Because she had tried to get loan now to help God get the house into her hands. She'd have no job. She's been trying no job, and the rent backed up. And the landlord said, I'm giving you notice.
Yes.
And does in fact give her notice.
Yes.
And she went back her knees. She said, Lord, why would you tell me the house is mine? And here I am about to be evicted. Within a few months, the man died. The man had no ear. Not a soul has approached for the house. She'd been living in the house now for 10 years until she applied for the title is now, without going into the details, the title is now hers. The man had no ear, nobody to follow him. Take the break at this point.
I'm glad you shared that story. So you have
living in a house?
No, not you know. You know that underscored what I said. Yes.
Return after the break.
Yes,
Mr.
Best 100 FM is the authentic voice of Jamaica, promoting your prosperity with better vibes and better music. Let us promote your goods and services for you. Advertise with us. For more information, call our office at 876-276-8935. That's 276-8935.
This is your beloved Pastor Percy from the Morning Connection. Support our commitment to Jamaica by joining us on Wednesday mornings at 7:30 when we pray for the nation. Show us you care. Advertise with us. For more information, call our offices at 876-276-8935.
Welcome to the Ligony Club. This beautiful property is nestled in the heart of New Kingston and is the single largest sporting facility in the English-speaking Caribbean. JD's Urban Pub is our resident restaurant. You can trust them with all your catering requirements. Take advantage of our excellent amenities and allow yourself to be pampered by our courteous and efficient staff in the comfort of our well-appointed and welcoming public spaces. You are being invited to make this your home away from home. Take advantage of our full-service gymnasium. Our 8 tennis courts. Feel free to wander through the gardens and enjoy the relaxing atmosphere of this oasis that remains as charming today as when we first opened our doors in 1910, and our large-sized swimming pool. 6 squash courts. In the evenings, relax with us in the lobby bar and lounge. Call or visit us today. We're excited to meet you.
Good morning and welcome back. Okay, so for this segment of the show, we're going to be joined by none other than Miss Lasonja Harrison. You know her well, a lady who is making some powerful waves, um, leading what I would say is the charge on behalf of the teachers of Jamaica. We want to just give her some support and hear her say in her own words what it is that is happening and how we as a nation can stand behind the efforts that our teachers are putting forth. It's not just for them, you know. A victory for one is a victory for all. So, good morning, Mrs. Harrison. All right. I think we're good to go. So, how have you been doing? How is your office? When we first spoke, you were assuming the position. You were just taking up office, brand new. How has it been?
More than tongue can tell.
What would you say has been the greatest challenge to date?
Wow. Uh, you must ask certain questions. Yeah. um, I think when you ask certain questions, you don't want the most honest answers. Um,
All right, I'll
the,
take
the
that
Bible
one.
the Bible says if all truth were to be spoken, then there would be no peace. Yes. I think
You notice I'm being silent. I'm encouraging
Judging you.
you.
the, 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 it is you represent the fact that five unions would have merged in 1963 to represent a cross section of teachers, bringing all those minds together in one space. It comes with its
Its
own
challenges. But
its own challenges. One.
I am tempted to probe a little on how you are managing with the welfare issues associated with, the body that you represent. How are our teachers doing really? Because we're still seeing
Oh my.
the rush of advertisements for
Oh
replacements.
yes. Oh
Yeah.
yes. Oh yes. Oh yes. Teachers continue to leave, and so that obviously has a timely, current impact on the system. Just the other day, when we had our delegate meeting, our special conference, the principal would have highlighted the need to fill 8 spaces, 11 spaces. So the teachers who reside in those schools, they are stretched to the
Yes.
limit because they're asked to take on additional sessions as well as to substitute when and the more you pack a teacher's timetable, the possibility of that teacher becoming overwhelmed, tired, and stopping from school. I know another principal would have shared with me that it was his board chairman who highlighted to say, never in all my years as chairman of the school, I've seen so many requests for casual days. The teachers
Yes.
are just tired, so they're
Burnt.
taking a day.
Yes.
That
Yes.
kind of thing. They've never seen it like that. the chairman. So it was the chairman who
Pointed it
highlighted
out.
the concern that he had never seen that kind of the high incidences of teachers
Yes.
applying for their casual days, because on the whole, teachers in general are faithful people to go to school. Even when I was in the classroom, if it's raining, because I went to Shortwood and the rain stopped, nothing at Shortwood. So if it's raining, my
You
friend will
gotta
come and
show
say,
up.
"Where are you?"
Yes.
I'm on my way to school. She said, "You know, see, flooded rain out the road and what?" I said, I'm going to school. And even my own mother would grow me that way, that rain stuff. She said, "Wait till it ease up and take your
And
umbrella
take your
and go
time
on."
and
When
go.
we reach a school, my foot flooded. But she says, better be to be present, to be late than never. So that kind of, so teachers in general are people who are loyal to what it is we have committed to, that of nation building.
Let me ask you this. Do you
Okay.
get the sense, as you are now negotiating for fair compensation, do you get the sense that that level of commitment and that there's that understanding of how committed a teacher is when they offer their service, that they really go beyond the call of duty? Do you get the sense that that is understood at the table?
She laughs again. You know, do you get a sense? Do you get
Oh,
a sense that
Jesus.
the other person is understanding what it is? Because
I
just
think she
before,
understand the question very well.
but you
The
know,
teachers of this nation are not valued.
Yeah.
They are not valued. We are not valued.
And I think the
The
policemen would say the
sacrifice.
same, and the RGD workers would say the same. I really wanted to probe with you, how do you see that gap being closed? Because myself, as someone who has both been an employer and an employee, I've stood in both places, and I do understand that the medium for communicating value is what you pay.
Ah.
There is no other way that an employer can show appreciation other than by offering fair compensation. There's no other way. You,
Okay. And
so,
especially in against the background of what is happening.
yes,
My question to the Jamaican people is, what quality education system you want for your
for your
children?
children
And
and for the
which
future.
practitioners do you want servicing that education system? Is it the hardworking teachers that other nations are coming in search of? They are coming, not in, we don't even finish teachers college and they are coming for us. We're fully aware that we cannot compare what is being paid in US dollars and whatever. And the truth is, their situation over there is not much better, because the teachers would not be leaving their classrooms if
Yes,
all was nice and grand.
yes,
What is
yeah.
it? It's a matter of
It's
economics.
economics.
When we translate the dollar of what they give to our society, in
Yes,
relation to
yes,
how our society is, it makes sense for our teachers to go. They are able to. But there are many teachers who do not desire to leave this nation. And all they want is to be able to live a decent
sent live.
life.
Yeah.
yeah.
That they are able to purchase a home, they're able to buy a vehicle, they are able to send their children, fund their children
I
tertiary
know,
education
yeah. Take a
without
holiday
taking
occasionally.
loan,
Yeah,
loan after loan after loan
yeah.
after loan. You have teachers going home with $8,000 and it's not wasting their money. Teacher going to $18,000. I met a teacher. She's taking home, has 3 children, and she's still going to
She's
tertiary
still
to
showing
pursue
up.
a degree.
Yeah,
Really?
yeah.
And what do you say to that individual when sometimes she can't even find bus fare to give her child who travels because she's in rural Jamaica, and the distance from where her child has to go to secondary education, all
Yes.
her money goes into bus fare for
And
her
travel.
child.
Yes,
Yeah.
And
I mean, I don't think that people have a tight grasp of those realities. I was speaking to a lady the other day, and she was saying she's a mother now, and she works, she does days work, and she's saying she has to give one child
$100
$1,100
for
to
transportation one day.
transportation, And she,
Okay.
oh my goodness. So and it's not confined to just what's happening with the teachers all across Jamaica. At a certain level, there is that huge, huge issue of how are we going to manage? Let me
But me,
ask you,
a lot of those children who come to school is
yes,
out of the little much teacher
Give to
tell
them. I
them
know
to come
that.
to
to
school.
come to, I know,
Tell them to come to school,
and
to
give
tell them that
supplies
don't
and
stay
lunch.
home. As long as you come, I will ensure you get us here. I
Yes,
know because I can speak from personal experience. Don't stay home. I will ensure so you get lunch. And if I
right.
bring a cup of crackers, it's
You
crackers.
share
You know
it.
that. And nothing is wrong with crackers. We eat a lot of it as teachers, and given our situation, or we don't get to eat, we don't have
On
necessarily
time.
early lunchtime. We have
Yes,
to have a pack of crackers with us
all the
to help and
time.
some tea. So when I remember, even when company was doing their advert, who did they use? Read to sell them crackers, teacher. No, that is indicative, really, the income level of the teacher. I am saying we continue to subsidize the education system. I ask, where are all the people who have benefited from the goodness of a teacher? Where are they? Where are they?
But
They
aren't
are where
they?
they are today
But,
because a teacher helps finance them. I'm not talking about just giving extra lesson or just helping them with their content. The teacher literally out of their pockets help for them to go to school every
so
day.
aren't any of those persons
At
at
the
the
negotiating
negotiating
table
table?
with you.
Good question. They hard, they hard.
Lord.
Forgotten from whence they came.
Yes.
And too many of us as Jamaicans, we forget where it is we are coming from. And it is out of the goodness of a teacher that we have passed the worst
So
many people in this nation.
let me ask you this, Mrs.
What
Harrison.
is we wanted to find out, Mrs. Harrison, what are the sticking points in terms of this negotiation? In terms of the Minister of Finance, when he read his budget on on Valentine's Day, himself it basically take it or leave it. What are the sticking points now?
Sir, when we other groupings, there have been movement. So we cannot, as an association, say that there. But this is a new shift. It is a paradigm move. So all teachers have to cross over together. And when we look, they want to the matter of the automatic increment that the teacher would have and enjoyed. That is on
That's no more.
the cutting board, the chopping block.
Yes, that
When
would be
you
no
look
more.
when you look at the book software technology and allowance, software allowance, now in this day and age where the government says that we're transitioning to a digital society, history is not on the side of government, that it has resourced education with the requisite resources that are needed to execute teaching and learning effectively. The teachers have always
Had to,
subsidized that.
yes, yes.
So before teacher got tablet, that was enacted because a pandemic came in, and afterwards a laptop that we're yet to receive. Some teachers are yet to receive, and the timeline goes all the way to 2024. We're saying prior to that, it was teachers who purchased their own laptops
Devices and
to use
equipment.
and their devices and used in the classroom. So we're saying, and when it is, we're expected to exist in a bimodal environment at this time. As soon as rain set up will fall, a landslide, threat of hurricane, taxi strike, we're to transition online. At whose expense?
Oh,
Whose electricity? Whose
I'm sorry to
internet?
laugh.
Whose data service? Yes? Who? Because the government is not giving us something to say, okay, go home, we will retrofit your bedrooms because it was our bedrooms that became classrooms
You're really
during the
saying,
pandemic.
so
And we
slow
didn't have
down a
a
bit
desk.
for me.
Nobody cared if we had a desk or a chair in there. You would have gone to school and would have been provided some basic resources. You would have used the internet at school if internet is at school and light at school. Now, when it is you're transitioning that cost and the teachers absorb that, and in this day and age, the government is saying and when those laptops that they do provide, there's nothing in the contract that says we're going to replenish it every 2 to 3 years. 3 to 5 years, because we know devices have a lifespan on them. And there is
So-
nothing in our contract where government says we will update the laptop, we will maintain it. Nothing. The teacher is to bear that cost. And when we ask for a book software technology allowance, the government responds to us is that they are unable to facilitate, and they will continue to provide the technological support to schools. History does not show that they have done that to the benefit of the education system over the years. The trained graduate is the bulk of the teaching force.
So what
Bulk.
percentage of a difference does that amount to in the overall thing? I'm just
The-
curious. You're asking, the teachers would then be asking for an allowance to cover that. Is that like 30%?
We correctly get it. So what we want is the retention of it.
Okay. All
We're
right.
not asking for anything new.
Yes.
We're not asking for anything new.
So you're
We're
asking
for the
to,
retention.
so you want to retain an allowance that usually you don't really get anyway.
One that is we think is imperative for
Yeah.
the time.
Yeah.
It
So
is imperative. If it is, we're going forward into a digital society.
that's not unreasonable at all. And the truth is, I can't imagine that it would be otherwise.
Them have the money from universal access. So
And-
These devices
yes.
that are provided, they have to be serviced, don't they?
Of course.
And if persons know the volume of work that teachers do on our laptops.
It's the same
Yes?
thing that businesses do. Employers whose core business relies heavily on technology own that responsibility and that cost, because the business would die if they left it up to the workers. If you left it up to your workers to maintain the desktop or the laptop or whatever it is you give them, your business would crash.
And a study was done. To the compensation review, and you compared us to private sector. Is that how the private sector treat their
Yeah,
workers?
that's why the private sector don't leave that to the choice of the worker.
Is that
We're
the
gonna
private
take
sector?
we're gonna take a break.
We're gonna take a station break,
and come
and
back.
then when we come back, we would like to hear what the main sticking points are, and if there's anything at all that the parents can do to add their support to, the push that you have to make per the minister in the next 6 weeks. All right, please stay with us. Our guest is Mrs. LaSondra Harrison, and you can tell that she has a heart for the job that is ahead of her, and we need to be supportive.
Welcome back, Mrs. Harrison, to this discussion that we've been having. Thanks for bringing some light in the situation. So, to your own mind, what are the sticking points?
What are the other
The
sticking
sticking
points?
points.
Because you've dealt with one adequately, I think. The absence of continuity with the allowance for the hardware and the technology. I wouldn't even repeat the numbers that you mentioned, what the government has
Given
been
per
doing.
school.
Suffice it to say, we know it's inadequate. Is there another major issue?
In outside of the trained graduate,
Oh, no, explain that one.
the trained graduate makes up the largest grouping of the teaching service. These are the classroom teachers, the persons who are the soldiers
The foot
on
soldiers.
the ground. We cannot, and these are the people that overseas, they are coming and they are taking them and they're taking our most experienced and or those persons who have the expertise and their years of service. Many of them have gone, even principals going to
I-
return as classroom teacher.
I know.
That tells you something.
Yeah, I know of somebody who has had 29 years in the classroom, and she called me and said, "I gone
Oh my
29
God.
years."
29
years.
years. Now, can you imagine you work you give 29 years of your life? That's your youth. You have given. And to think when you economic circumstance, you have to change, lift up yourself out of your routine, your norm, your environment, everywhere, just because you want to go and ensure that you have a house.
Yes.
You have to ensure that you can send your children to university and you don't have a debt around your neck for the rest of your life.
So, what is the great sticking point now concerning the treatment of these foot soldiers?
So the trained graduates,
Yes.
when they spend 4 years in college, majority of said persons would have funded their own tuition, their education. A few, some go on scholarship, provided by the government for certain subject areas in particular. So they would have borne the cost of their education, 4 years. You have other persons in counterparts, different parts of the public sector. Similar years of study, basic qualification, and they are being paid far more than what you are paying the trained graduate, the teacher on whose back this nation is built. And your value towards those teachers is to pay them less, far less than what you're paying other persons with similar qualification doing critical work to nation building.
Let me ask you a question. I know that the government has basically condensed 350 odd scales into 616 bands of payment.
Into 60, indeed.
So where does your foot soldier fall? What bands are they gonna be in comparison?
Currently four.
Band 4. What does band 4 have?
Are you kidding me?
$1.4 million?
No, that is on your going civil service scale. So that equates us to about band 6 on the civil service scale.
That's 2.1 and
Two-
up to 2.8
million, somewhere there.
In that's down about.
Wow.
So you end up taking home what now?
What was our preliminary calculations? Net pay, because whatever movements it's on net pay. So there is some perhaps I don't.
The gross would have been about
quoting the figure, and I'm not
233.
being accurate.
Right, but about 233,000 before tax on a monthly basis.
Probably I'm near enough there, somewhere about there.
Wow.
And that's not the money. That's not money for the teachers of this country. And we have persons in other private institutions. They pay their teachers, classroom teachers, at least $300,000 per month. If we're really talking, I wonder if the parents would even consider and understand that the individual who is standing before your child, when you want them to be so focused on delivering
Quality.
and nurturing and ensuring that they help to maximize the potentials of your child. And when that individual have to be thinking, I wonder what I'm going to feed my children tonight, if I'm going to feed them. I wonder where I'm going to get the bus fare from to give my child to go to school the next day. And if it is that I give the child the bus fare, if I go and get to work, and if I get to work, how I go and get back home. And I wonder how it is that I'm going to work out there, I want juggle to go to school and I'm spending my own.
Well, yeah, the point though too is in well-paid households, a good nanny is getting more than that. So, and that's a reality. That's a reality in Jamaica. During the break, we were talking about the principles that are undergirding the bargaining positions of both school teachers and government. I could easily see, as you said, there is a difference in valuation, that the teachers value themselves at one level and the government value them at another. So I see that as a point of division. You have to come to a common place on what's a teacher really worth to Jamaica, in terms of their contribution. But I was also picking up from you that there's another principle in terms of the one size fits all. You were speaking about travel allowance and upkeep of cars and so on. how that is addressed and the disparity between those who travel a rough mile and those who travel an easy mile. What impact is that having on the discussions?
Well, the truth is, again, there are some decisions that are made in negotiation because there is a wide grouping of public sector workers. There are some decisions that have been made that impacts us as educators that we did not participate in in those discussions per se. So those discussions were made by other groupings with perhaps more influence or larger. So it is not necessarily negotiated by the JTA as a union with the Ministry of Finance. So when it comes down to mileage and traveling and up, that is not negotiated. JTA does not negotiate that on behalf of teachers per se.
Yes.
You understand? If you get what I'm saying.
I understand.
So those decisions were literally made and
handed over to you guys.
Unfortunately, live with them. Yes. But when we know that as educators, that when we submit our mileage, it is not an automatic payment. Sometimes they don't get it until months after. It's not an automatic. So when the government now says it has rolled upkeep into salary, yes, and it's going to be paying us for mileage, that kind of thing. You find that you are going to we're not sure as a grouping
how that's going to play out.
For our members, we pray that it will improve, given now that government will be will that transition. So we're anticipating that they will literally honor that as we submit the claim for our mileage. And there is a cap on same as well. You know, so it's not as if you can go about and do the business of school to your whatever. You have to, it is done within restrictions.
So it's not based on the actual experience. There are restrictions, caps.
So there are restrictions. So that provision, they will tell you that. Well, one of the things is that government has changed, or it is changing how it is paying public sector workers. It is renouncing a lot of what
used to happen.
The teachers pay for living today is being rolled in or has been discontinued, and it's just pretty much a basic sum that government wants to pay. So those who are currently in the system will transition with some remnants of those allowances and whatever calculated in their monies. But for the teachers who are to come, they will be devoid.
Yeah, they will start in the new system. Yeah.
And so when you look at who will we be able to attract, will the basic salary, will the salary that is paid to the teacher, the flat rate, those who will continue to get their post of special responsibility, because that is something that has been retained and had to, given that you cannot have a system, the middle managers help to hold schools together, right? So that has been retained. And I did say that we have made some advancement, but when we look at our trained graduates, who makes up the bulk of the teaching profession, the government has to pay greater diligence and courtesy to the foot soldiers. And the foot soldiers go out there battle. Is the foot soldiers
so
on
are
the
you
ground? Is the foot soldiers on whom you are dependent to execute any vision of education?
Can we be hopeful, Mrs. Harrison, that some kind of glide path would be established to get you to your optimal position? Is there room for that kind of dialogue at the negotiating table? You know you want to be at this level, but the government is saying, I can't get you there in one fell swoop. Is there that spirit of discussion present?
We are, well, I'm a praying person, so I remain hopeful. And God answers prayers.
That's his job.
He answers prayers and he intervenes, and I serve. You know, from the other day I have to do a shirt.
Yes.
I serve the God of Mission Impossible.
Mm-hmm.
Aye.
Yes. And so nation have cried. They have cried. And just like the children of Israel, there's a particular cry when it resounds to heaven.
He
God
answered. He
answers.
sends
Against
a
the Pharaohs.
Moses.
He
Against the
answers.
Pharaohs.
No man, he sends
He
a Moses.
answers.
He sends
He
a Moses.
answers.
So,
He answers.
so
And
is
the teachers of this nation, even with your worst memory of a teacher, there are more than those who outnumber. Yes,
yes,
and
the
the
bad one.
teachers have given sacrificially to this nation. I ask of Jamaica, what quality education system do you want to remain? And part and parcel of that is that you must pay the teacher a livable wage. That's all we ask. A livable wage in order. And the
well,
classroom teacher must be able to manage their daily
how
living.
far do you think you are away from this livable wage?
Yeah, because
Is it another 10%, 20% to go, 30%? Just on average. I know I'm trying
Or-
to simplify it.
or better still, where you think they should pitch the train graduate in terms of the
But
six
they
bands?
are still fully aware because we do not live in a bubble. And they are aware. And if you did a study to say that you're providing some kind of equity and whatever across the system and so, then you are aware of the qualifications of other groupings of people and where you have pegged them and where it is that you are pegging the teacher.
So you want to higher up the scale then? You have bigger band.
I do want to get a sense, though, of how far are we from meeting the optimal demands?
I think as near another how far as the Ministry of Finance decides to respond to the request of the teachers of this nation.
Oh, no, I don't mean in terms of time. I mean, is it that you'd like to be at 5 million and they have you at 2? Or you'd like to be at 3 million and they have you at 4 even?
In our mind, it is not that far.
Okay.
In our mind,
Yes.
we don't think it's that far at all. You know, we say we're not unreasonable people.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
So we continue to look out for the interest of
The majority of the teachers.
constituents.
Yeah, which is
All right. Well, you know, we are very
The
supportive.
future of education depends on it. It's
Yeah.
not just about the teacher, the future, and the quality individuals we want retained in
The
our
system.
classrooms.
All right. Thank you very much. I'm sorry for Nigel Clark.
we will pray for you. And I remember when you came, I told you, and I don't forget that indeed you've been called for this time. And look not on their faces, but look on the God that you serve. You are saying you are on a mission impossible. A lot of things are happening in the nation now, but I do believe that the cause that you have is a just one. Because it's not only about yourselves, it is about our children, it is about the future of this nation. And I know for a fact, I'll be praying, I've continued to pray for you, and I believe other persons indeed are praying for you. So do not be afraid. I give you Joshua 1
Verse
and
9.
verse 9. I release that into your heart and into the teachers and everybody at this point in time.
God bless you. Thank you for spending time with us. Have a wonderful day too.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I tell you, I do feel some sympathy for the minister. That lady is a powerhouse.
And
If she stays the course.
Yeah, if she stays the course. I think it stays the
If
course.
she stays the course, victory is inevitable.
Yeah, because
It's very heartening, though, to understand that they're not that far apart. I think that is,
they're not far apart.
they're not far apart.
And
Whether it is in terms of even just negotiating stance, meaning the energy and the commitment to get it done, it sounds like they're not far apart. And in terms of dollar value,
it's not far
it
apart.
sounds like they're not far apart.
And rightly because the scales are there. There are 16 bands. And she said, but
So all the government need to do now is, all right, we're going to take corruption down by 5%.
Ah!
We'll have enough
We
money
have, we have enough money to pay the people.
teachers.
And because what is happening, your intake of taxes will be so much because the corruption is removed from the society, or at a minimal,
Yes.
and there's more money to go about. And then they'll deal with crime and violence. Crime and violence.
You know, you got it.
Violence, violence, violence.
Stop violating the
The
word.
word violence.
Every time you think of it, remember Minette says, stop violating the word. You know that.
Violence. And if those things are fixed, you know, we live in a prosperous country. It's not a pipe dream.
You know what my sense is, Percival? My sense is that the greatest challenge in that room is the negotiating stance of the people.
Yes.
Because she's so right. We have a history of undervaluing labor.
In this country.
History, yeah, man. We have a history of
And not fulfilling our word too.
Not wanting to give fair value, respect to the people who make things happen. We like to leave the last 10% for them, and they must somehow fit themselves into it.
Yeah. You can't do that.
And that, you know, and people will feel that lack of respect, and it becomes impossible for you to get them to accept or to agree to even the most obvious things. Sometimes even you're giving them stuff, and just because you're giving it, they don't want it.
Hello. And
because you don't have no respect.
You're not respecting.
Yeah.
And so to come to the table with an understanding, I'm respecting your position and thing. And then remember the value and the role that a teacher played in your own life is so very, very, very important to you. And not only to you as a person across the table, but in terms of the wider impact in terms of the nation. And I know, you know, one of the things that has happened, and I don't think anybody has looked at it, and I was thinking about it. If you remove a lot of the allowances and so on, it is easier to manage. But guess what is happening to you also? A lot of these allowances were tax-free, but now the government is getting a wider collection of taxes because a lot of the things that were non-taxable before are now taxable. What do you think?
I'm smiling because even as I'm listening to you with my left ear, I'm reading what Conrad is saying from on the chat. Well, Conrad said, stop telling people that Pharaoh is a bad person because you are using the enemy information to teach your people because you got false information. Throw it out or perish with the enemies.
Pharaoh is good and bad. You had good fears and bad fears, but the one that we know about is a bad person because he hardened him heart, Pharaoh.
No, God hardened his heart.
God, yes. He hardened his heart.
He was as much a victim.
God hardened his heart in his heart, yeah. So the Pharaohs were good people, they're good empires, but some of them...
Then he asked me the big question, Minette, are you feeling the ground shaking yet? He must have heard me say it. The earthquake is both in the ground and in the structures and systems of the nation. Conrad, the ground is shaking.
But Conrad now listen to us as we speak prophetically, you know. He not believing in them things.
No, it's confirmation, man. The man just a share a thing with me. He said, the ground is shaking. The ground is shaking. And he's telling me, he said, I told you something is coming. I just wait as it unravels. We're kind of getting to that place. Well, you said take it in the last last segment.
Yeah, man.
I enjoyed the conversation with Miss Lasandra. Her spirit is great. There's nothing like somebody who feel a divine mission is wrapped up in what they're doing.
Hello, please.
There's no handling that person. You don't want to be in the room with that person who feel that their cause is
just and right.
Yeah.
Just and right, yes.
We're looking at the rain clouds.
No, it will not fall.
All right.
Father, we thank you.
Please.
Thank you. No rain. When we finish, rain can't fall, but no more rain.
What can we say? You see the same way that persons add their voice to every kind of thing that capture their imagination? Please, parents, even the students themselves, add your voice to support the teachers. Understand that if there isn't enough support for the technology that is needed to power the classroom and get people learning online and have the necessary device and research capabilities and a provision of internet service in the schools and in the homes, in the teachers' homes too, we are going to be in problems. So please, let it be clear that we support the teachers. We should have a give the teachers what they need
Campaign. Hashtag, give the
give
teacher
the
what they
teachers
need.
what they need.
So
And,
we'll start
yeah.
starting that one.
If we can be moving to $1 trillion budget, we surely can give proper treatment, compensation to the teachers who, make up the bulk of the system.
And you see, when you're generating surpluses in a system and you're meeting it, and they were beating their chest and saying, "Yeah, we moved from 145% of budget to 74 point something." The fact that on the backs of the sacrifice of Jamaicans over the last 10, 12 years, remember what Peter Phillips had to do when the IMF went south and want to talk to us, and the sacrifices we have had to make. Let it count on behalf of the teachers. It has to count on behalf of the people. The
I must say
education.
that Lasandra's passion is a lot more attractive than yours.
That's all
Let's
right.
take the break.
That's all right.
It's 9 o'clock.
That's all right. I don't have no challenge with that. Everybody to each his own.
You're going out?
Yes, ma'am.
Welcome back. All right, we're entering into the last segment for the morning. We have one eye on the door looking for our other guest. Miss Maxine Stowe is to be joining us this morning, and she's on her way. But we do want to make brief mention of what is happening with the Integrity Commission's recent report concerning recommendations for our own Prime Minister to be considered for prosecution. Now, I know those who listen to us with regularity understand that we have been calling out the Integrity Commission and we've been calling out leaders. We've been a part of that vanguard calling for greater transparency and for greater action to be taken in relation to the activities of our leaders. The Prime Minister is starring in the latest report.
He always wants to be the star of the show, you know.
The Prime Minister?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, that's the thing.
All right. So, the Integrity Commission has referred a report implicating Prime Minister Holness to the Director of Corruption Prosecution after it came to the conclusion that he may have influenced the awarding of certain contracts. The recommendation was made in a 107-page report. I have not read the report as yet, so if
Is it
there are other
available
things
for
in
public
it,
view?
well, the media has it, so when we are media, which contains details of an investigation into the award of government contracts to Westcon Construction Limited between 2006 and 2009.
When he was Minister of Education.
The report said that company directors Robert Garvin and Donovan Simpson are known to Holness for more than 20 years, and the contracts were awarded through the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information when Mr. Holness served as Portfolio Minister. It involved the Social Development Commission and the National Works Agency. One headline this morning is from the Social Development Commission distancing itself, saying that it had nothing to do with the award of these contracts. Let's look at what the Prime Minister has said, because having not read the allegations, I am reluctant to go too deep into it at the moment. But I am certainly concerned about the Prime Minister's statement on the matter. Prime Minister says, I strongly reject any suggestion or insinuation of wrongdoing, and I will do all in my power to ensure that the truth is known, he declared, noting that he has referred the matter to his lawyers. This is his full statement, and Percy, I'm going to invite you into a commentary on the main points of his statement. The first thing he says is that the matter covered in the report goes to contracts dating as far back as 2006, 2009, over 14 to 17 years ago. Is there a statute of limitation on the uncovering of corruption and iniquity?
No.
Can I tell you the case we dealt with in last year, where the citizen was saying, my rights have been violated because you have used rumors, and those
40
rumors
years.
was
40
from
years?
40 years ago.
40 years from
40
1980?
in the 80s, and the police have it on their record as part of how they should regard him. They call him unfit and say he's not fit and proper to do certain business in this country because 40 years ago there were certain rumors that never made its way into any kind of report or conviction or trial. So the Prime Minister should know that 14 to 17 years ago is a baby compared to what regular citizens have to deal with. So it seems that he's saying that was long time. Why are we talking about it now? And it harkens back to that question which we heard asked before the Joint Select Committee as to whether the Integrity Commission
can investigate people.
Felt that it could go back in time
open up files
and open up. Well, I tell you, Mr. Christie, when did Mr. Christie leave the post of Contractor General? I think it was run about then, you know. I feel like Mr. Christie came back and just pick up the file because nobody looked at it during his absence. The second point he makes is, he says the failure of agencies to comply with various procurement rules cannot be attributed to me in any capacity, and we note that the report does not make such a conclusion.
The report didn't make a conclusion.
He says it was not concluded that the agencies that failed to follow the procurement rules did so because he influenced them. Like he told them, don't bother with no procurement, just go and do it this way. He says there's no conclusion that that was his fault. In other words, he's saying they acted on their own, and the
Who
fact
acted
that
on the one? The director?
different agencies, not the private sector company, you know, SDC, Ministry of Education, which he heads, not following procurement rules is not his fault. Where have we heard that before? That's other report that the man kept out of the public domain for how many years? I think he was saying the same thing. But you know, it rings very hollow for the Prime Minister to say that the ministry which he heads not following rules is not his fault.
Who is the chief policy maker? Who directs it? Because as soon as they see it, they should have jumped on it and say, "You know about to get mix up, you know."
But it's his friends.
That's what I'm saying.
So who?
The influence, who would I know?
Who would stop it? Who would get a letter from the Prime Minister saying, I recommend X, and not interpret it as a clear instruction to give it to
Civil
X?
servants would have backbone.
And we've been going through the Petrojam trial and hearing the evidence and understanding how the manipulation takes place.
And remember the one out of Hanover, the man kept calling the lady and say, he must say him not thief no money, but look what happened.
Yeah. Then now comes the point that I think to myself, you know, he should have kept quiet.
Yeah.
The third point is, in my response to the Integrity Commission queries of these dated matters, I made it absolutely clear that at no time have I ever exercised influence on any process for the award of contracts. This one tells me now that the Prime Minister was involved in the investigation and his word counted for naught.
Yeah.
It means that the investigators did not find the Prime Minister's assurance credible.
To be true.
And this is where, if I were advising him, I would have said, don't bother say anything like that.
Put that in another report.
Because if the Integrity Commission, acting in full possession of their powers and duties and seeing all the information, didn't think that the Prime Minister's absolute clarity on the matter carried weight with them, who is going to carry weight with? Me and you, who only read what they choose to tell us?
You're just talking about the little black man versus the man who have all of the... You remember I made that point earlier?
Yeah.
That people will really take you on. So...
The fourth point he makes, he says, I strongly disagree with the findings of the Integrity Commission regarding conflict of interest based on mere association. That's the one that gave me chuckles.
But isn't that what we do? The
Carousel?
No, not carousel.
Let's start with carousel because me like to keep it personal.
Oh.
My company lost a license because of association with an individual that the government say is not fit and proper. They did not only make findings that were adverse to me, they canceled a license that we had already paid $7.5 million US for on the basis of mere association. There was nothing to be said that Lowell or Minette or Natalie or anybody connected with the company had done anything wrong. They couldn't even say that the man we were associating with had done something wrong. It was just rumors. Mm-hmm. And to hear the Prime Minister saying, you can't have adverse findings based on mere association is just, it is like God put something in my hand. So I want to see how far he's going to get with that, because the High Court, the full court, our constitutional court, has already ruled that it is reasonable for adverse findings to be made against somebody based on association and smut and gossip. So let me see where he's going to go with that.
Oh, so that is...
Number 5, he says, it has been the long-standing practice that members of parliament are asked to recommend local contractors to undertake works in their constituencies as a practical matter.
But it wasn't his constituency. I mean,
It was in his constituency.
Oh, okay.
Yes, and that's what made it worse. So he is now pleading that everybody do the same corrupt thing for a long time now, so that makes it right.
No, but the fact that they keep pressing and say it look too bad, man. Look too bad.
Well, the prime minister's defense is everybody else does it.
No, it can't be.
That's no defense.
As chief
Let
of
me tell you,
minister,
sir, he should have kept quiet.
no, should I say that, man?
He should have kept quiet.
So when this go on Supreme,
Then he says that this practice was introduced during the 1990s. Which government was in power in the 1990s?
you must say PNP.
He said the PNP.
PNP file.
And then started.
Hello, you know, this sound very much like a stance, you know. When they are caught with their hand in the cookie jar.
I don't mean one. Everybody
And I mean one. It wasn't me.
Yeah.
That's why that
Shaggy
song
defend.
Shaggy said it wasn't me, and the Minister of Finance are saying it wasn't me, because up to now with what has happened at FSC, he has not said it happened under my watch, I'm responsible, I'm doing all of these things, but it has not come out of his mouth to say, my watch, I'm responsible, but I'm doing this to fix it. I'm doing all of these things, but he has never said, I'm responsible.
It also shows that he has no idea what conflict of interest means. But now that the Integrity Commission has put out their code of conduct, a lot more people will understand what conflict of interest means.
Right, Rolf?
So he said it wasn't him. Then he says it is also the practice that constituency project officers for the Constituency Development Fund are recommended by the Member of Parliament. Hello, conflict. It is not usual that CDF project officers are persons, it is not unusual that they are persons already working in the constituency organization. What I want to know is there any place in how we do things for the MP to recommend one PNP contractor and one JLP contractor and then share the work? Why it need to be? To me, if you were looking to be equitable and to be fair, you would say we take one from each side.
But you know, I've seen that happen.
You have.
And then man, I've seen that happen where and I was drawn over the coals with it.
All right, before we welcome Miss Maxine, let me do the last point. And I'm not gonna ask her anything about this the shenanigans of the government. We have new things to talk about. The Integrity Commission's report, he says, ignores the circumstances of an emergency where in 2008, and he emphasizes that it's 15 years ago, the Christmas work program was late in starting and workers faced a high probability of not being paid. So he then pleads necessity and emergency. Apparently, if it is an emergency and it makes practical sense to proceed in an inappropriate way, you can be relieved of any consideration of conflict, impropriety, or possibility of corruption. And then he says he's gravely disappointed. And he claims that he did it in good faith. I did my investment with Mr. Neil in good faith. I believed in good faith that the licenses the government had been giving him for years meant he was fit and proper to be in the industry. So I could partner with him.
Hold a second. So Mr. Neil was parted. So what you're saying? The gentleman is go tell and
yeah, of course he had licenses.
So
all these years he was in the sector as a major investor.
So
and I moved in good faith because I thought I could rely on the licenses the same government give him, only to discover that they had a problem. Well, Mr. Prime Minister, you have a problem.
You have a major problem.
But let's move on to happier things.
Because up to now, as we close that matter, and we welcome my beautiful friend. I've not seen you in a long time. And every time I see you look like you get younger.
Well, listen,
I
asked the Father in heaven to give us half an hour. And we have about 10 minutes left out of it. I say, hold the rein. We only have half an hour left for the show.
Did 10 o'clock, me tell him.
Well, let's see who he's listening to. Welcome, Maxine. Welcome.
Happy New Year to you, my dear. I know they have seen you, but I have not seen you. And you're looking regal as per usual.
All right. And belated Valentine's Day.
Thank you, madam.
You
The
know.
rose is yours. One of these is yours.
Belated Valentine's Day or belated birthday to me too.
Well, mine's
My February.
upcoming.
How are you, Miss Marcia?
I'm good.
Miss Maxine, how are you?
Till y'all calling her
Interesting.
Marcia.
No, because maybe that's a subject matter today, but
No, I think he watched Marcia on profile. When is your profile interview going to be aired? We're jumping
on
in feet
Sunday.
first.
Should be
This
Sunday.
While I'm in the ear?
Well,
So,
online, I
since
don't
the
know.
last time I saw you, what have you been up to, my dear?
All right.
Defending against black erasure.
Black you what?
Erasure.
Erasure, where they erase originators
Yeah. All right. We can't start so far.
because of popularity.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like the way they're trying to. Everybody's trying to keep any talk about slavery out of schools and making white people look bad.
Right. Exactly.
The other side of that coin is black erasure, removing us from the places of influence which we naturally occupied in history. What's the best way to prevent that, madam? I hope you say museum, because that's what I want to
Well,
talk
museum,
about.
well, what they say is based on social media,
Yeah.
we're able to get to cite originators. So the more that we cite originators and the public gets to consume knowledge, that is what they're proposing, because the structure, the structure to
formal
erase
structure, yeah.
is so huge
Yes.
that it is knowledge. And
That
they
is- that
specifically
will-
say,
yeah.
wherever you can, cite the originators, not
Yeah.
who has made things popular.
But
Because
who
that
created
is
it?
who created
The source,
it,
the
right?
source. You know, it's the same thing. There's God erasure too. You know, most people are trying to pretend that mankind just evolved out of nothingness and there's no divine hand behind it.
Right.
So it's interesting that what we do to God is what's happening to the black people.
Right, and even in terms of the music industries,
Yeah.
Reggae Month, etc., Jamaican music is going through black erasure internationally at this phase, similar as to what occurred with rock and roll, like Little Richard, when
Yeah.
Elvis Presley came on and became famous. Then he, as the originator, and not even him, but the black people,
Yeah, faded
and
into
rock and
the
roll
background.
became
White.
a white
Yeah.
product.
figures it's
So
a
the
white
same
product.
thing is happening now for Jamaican music globally. Our influence, we are now moved off of the stage. We're blocked from entering countries where,
For one reason or
for
another,
one
we
reason or the
become-
other.
we become
So we
unfit.
are now at the verge of black erasure, and we started at home by using popularity and not educating people even about their own, process.
the cultural ownership of it.
Of it,
I,
you know?
I miss our conversations on that topic because I can see too that when we in Jamaica say our music is a violence producing agent and we begin to criminalize.
Just like what the
those
gays
who-
did and say that
Yeah.
we are murder music
Yes.
and,
Yeah.
erased us.
Then you begin to, you place the whole subject in disrepute and someone else picks it up who doesn't come with that baggage and makes it popular
I
and
don't
the
even know
point
what
of
they're doing.
origin
I don't even know what
is
they're doing.
forgotten.
Right, because even the other day, they had a conference here, music conference.
Yes.
And the minister was asked, well, what about all these black DJs, Bujo, Beanie, Bounty, Sizzler, Popcorn, who don't have any visas to go into America, which is the root market
Yes.
of the industry. And the response is, oh, they can go to Africa. We have bilateral agreements there. And I'm saying, but the African artists are going to their diasporas in America, to make their success. And that was the response. You understand? So it shows you because they know
Lack
that
of
we are back to
sensitivity.
no, but they're misusing
Back to Africa.
Yes.
our cultural imprimatur in Africa, knowing that we don't have any control over commerce in Africa.
We're
You
talking
understand what I'm saying?
commerce and
It's
they're
still
talking
their
philosophy.
Not only that, but it's still their companies that are using our music to make inroads in Africa, not the people.
Yeah.
You understand? So it was very disrespectful to me. I mean, I could say like a layman could make certain comments, but comments like that, we should be formulating a cultural response to the American government, citing, you understand, our diaspora, citing our economics, and citing that our artists' expression is no different from the Black American artists expressing their reality. You're not banning them. Why are we being banned via visa?
Yes. But you see, the visa has become an economic tool in the hands of the Americans. And what the minister might be loath to say is she has no control over it.
Yes, but you have...
Because it affects the
I
unequal
understand, but to me, you need to
show an
educate
awareness
people.
of it. And yes.
And then don't send me off to some...
Don't send me to
La La
Africa.
Land.
La La Land. You're
You're
going back to music, La La Land. But
No,
it's interesting
but I
that you
understand the point, yes.
interesting that you've made that point, because I just think she doesn't begin to comprehend and understand what she was saying.
The minister knows she's smarter than that.
She knows.
She just don't
But-
care.
But what I'm saying, I
She
don't say she may care.
We're not the people that is represented by that.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like
Power base.
you need a from the time when they labeled us murder music, the gay lobby, we were supposed to
Fight back.
address it with our own lobby and PR mechanism, which was our tourism board.
And we
Because
never
the
did.
gay was not just coming against the music, it was coming against the country. You
Which is what
understand?
they
So
have done.
why did you allow just the musicians to be scapegoated?
It was a whole country,
Yeah, but-
actually. Because when you go overseas and you're Jamaican, you're homophobic. You know that. That's the label that we have. Yeah. And
You
every
understand what I'm
person
saying?
is
But-
Jamaican.
We were part of the response team. And so you had the opportunity now to educate even the gay community. You understand? About the implications. And I often said, well, forget about our nuances. If you want to help us to get to your level of understanding, help us with our socio-economic problems, because that is what is beneath our response.
And that will shift the foundation of everything.
Because
Yeah.
if you put us on an equal footing to bring your argument to us from an equal footing, then
Empathy.
empathy will
There'll
be
be
there.
empathy, yeah.
But at this level where we are oppressed and where the lifestyle is imposed,
Yes. It's trauma.
it's trauma. You understand? We maybe would have had an ally.
Yeah. Yeah.
You understand? To understand
And ultimately, that's where it's going, because once empathy enters the discussion, then the hostility has to recede.
has to recede.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do, it is Reggae Month, and last year we had such fun times in this very garden. Can't believe it's been a year. This year we're not doing as much, but I know you've been working on some other initiatives. Can we just spend a few minutes on it before?
Yes, well,
Break.
Oh, when we come back from the break, I did ask for 30 minutes.
I told you
Let's
we're going to
see.
get the 30 minutes.
We got the 30 minutes already.
No, me after 10 o'clock.
Okay. Come back. All right, Miss Max. We have to be so efficient in our time now because we're in the last segment. So I want us to start by you just telling me what you're doing with that museum in Island Village because it's a reality now.
Right. Well, as you know, it is under the rubric of the Dancehall Music Museum, where it's seeking to platform a new way of telling the story of the music by citing the originators of the music, not of the music as an industry, not merely who we know as being popular, especially made popular by the international markets, and then reimposed on us as the story. So, in the first iteration of the museum, it is focused on the Wailers, because, you know, having worked with Bunny Wailer, my uncle Clement Dodd being the founder of the group commercially, and working also with Chris Blackwell at Island Records.
Island Village itself.
Island Village itself was, when it was created, I was working with Chris.
Yeah.
And I was also part of the reissue campaign of the whole Wailers and Bob Marley catalog at Island at the time. So I'm pretty adept at what has happened commercially and what has happened locally, in respect of, you know, Bunny and Peter fighting for their identity
As part of the
as
group.
part of the group and the ownership of the Wailers brand, Tough Gang, etc. You know?
So really, it's reestablishing the Wailers as the foundation of the solo careers that flowed.
Right, and their identity
The ident-
of the Wailers, because truth be told, Bunny and Peter are paid for their work, but their identity is erased under the rubric that Bob Marley and the Wailers title belongs only to Bob and represents Bob's solo career. So the whole story of the Wailers now is spoken of just in terms of one member, which has implications, both social and economic.
And economically,
Yes.
yes, because today we are fighting for reparations against the slave masters who built a whole industry of wealth out of slave labor.
Right, and,
And-
even
and-
your innovations that you, because whether you're a slave or not or whatever, your mind
The output of your mind, your cultural
remains
output is yours.
Right, so you're creating things even to survive. So even Rastafari, which is a survival mechanism, has become an economy. So you're survival, and that economy at this stage is also now being taken.
It's owned by
It's
others.
owned by others.
Yeah.
You know,
So that fight for inclusion and to be remembered and to be given your rightful place in the scheme of things continues.
continues.
What statement is the museum making? I haven't. We need to invite people to just go look and see what's going on there. but
Yes, well,
what's the
we're focused on
Location.
really publicly coming out for the month of April, which is Rastafari month. It is also the month of Bunny's birthday. It's pivoted around April 13th, being the 50th anniversary of the release of the Catch a Fire album,
That's the first signal.
First Signal. And it's also Ganja month, 420.
Yes.
421
April.
is Groundation Day, the visit of His Imperial Majesty to Jamaica.
Okay, so April is the perfect month.
And the 22nd I'm bringing up as the One Love Peace Concert, because again, in that respect, the Wailers are not again seen as being integrated into what the One Love Peace Concert meant. It's just Bob Marley's
Marley.
symbol of
Yeah.
bringing the two people's hands together.
You know,
But-
I'm always reminded of your insistence that Bob Marley never saw himself as anything other than
A Wailer,
a whaler.
right.
It's just kind of bizarre that in his death, in the wake of his death, the economics have taken over and
The economics and the family.
Yeah.
Because the families, what I'm going through now in my stage in the music industry is dealing with the families, my own family, the families of artists, etc., who them and their estate lawyers don't know anything about the music business. And it's now a further barrier You understand? You are fighting within your life for your rights, and upon your death, it's another fight that is accentuated by the ignorance of your families, and because it's multi-families, like different mother
Yes,
and whatever, there's
yeah.
no unity in relation to the work that you created. And so many of them are intestate. Certain in the case of Bob and Peter, they died without a will. So then it's the government and the family who is multi all over the place
Right.
that are seeking now to
direct things.
or get their revenge or all
Oh,
kind
Lord,
of
because the women and
the women and who never this and whatever that, you know, and in the face of that,
we
it's-
truly are descendants of royalty. That sounds like what happens in any royal household.
The fight
Remember in the
in
Old
Old
Testament,
Testament,
one
yeah,
man
man.
went and killed 70.
One time,
The
Solomon.
sons of his father
Yeah.
killed the 70 children so he could hold the crown.
well,
So we
You
cannot.
you never saw that. It's a serious
no,
thing.
I know it's a human
That's
condition, you
it.
know,
Yeah.
but I
Yeah.
think
The
us being
destructive-
not aware of it, like how we're speaking.
Yeah, because
You
we're
understand
looking
what I'm
at
saying?
it.
Then we, as people, my agitation would be now, all these artists and especially our artists and cultural practitioners should now be looking at their
Making
life
sure.
as a will.
Making
As,
sure.
as you're born, you're supposed to have a will. As you're born and
Yeah.
you create something outside of yourself, you need to be notating what should happen, especially if you're an activist.
And that only makes the job a little easier because in Bonuela's situation,
He
has
had a will.
Hmm?
Yes, and because of his life, his will is challenged. Mr. Dodd had a will. You understand? So
Yeah.
you will now have to match your life. So
There
if your
is-
life have all kind of
But
gray area,
there's a
Ray.
principle in law that you cannot rule from beyond the grave. So you can have a will, and your will can have the clearest expression of this, that, or the other. But if those who take over your estate choose to ignore even the spirit of what you want to accomplish, that's it. And I think it's sobering for persons to realize that you can spend your life building something, and when you are gone, it disappears. It brings us to the argument we always have about living with heart and making sure your children get you. Because it's really somebody out of love and respect who is going to care what you've put
Okay.
on paper. I know that you have a tremendous amount of respect for the life and the spirit of what, for example, Bonuela sought to do. Even the Whalers group, as what it represents. What is different about you? What is it that you think you bring to the conversation that other family members miss? Because I see you in your own situation,
yeah,
the various estates.
I'm an activist. And I was born that way in the sense that I can't tell you what activated me. Because from my birth, even you're asking the question, there's no point of to say, oh, this happened, that happened,
Yeah.
whatever. I was born that way, and if it's a human condition, then humans are born with certain destinies to be affected by and to defend certain principles regardless of family. You understand? Because even the said Bible tells you that when your earthly mother and father forsake you,
Yes. God will take you up. So he
okay,
put
so
something there.
therefore, if then I'm born of God.
Yeah.
You understand? Because there's an explanation for this, what is happening.
Yeah.
And
But
so-
there's an integrity that you display, which is, I guess it really is you, because you care what's in the will and you care about achieving it, although there are other ways that one could go about things. I always tell people, if you agree to be somebody's executor, you must be prepared to honor their wishes. But you and I have had many conversations about legacy and bloodline. A
Yes.
man will live all his life wanting to build something, and it falls in the hands of his children, and the children take it in a whole different direction.
So that point in terms of relationship and those who
Yeah.
follow you understand what is in your heart becomes important, because what I'm hearing, Maxine, is principle. Principle. There's a principle that Bunny, when he was alive,
Stood for.
stood for,
And that
you
the
got
world
to
knows.
do-
It's recorded in interviews,
different
his song, you know,
right.
how he lived his life.
And
It's
so
not
there-
private.
And so therefore, it was in his will, but you were seeing a different direction being pursued by those who should know better.
Yeah, definitely. And it's endemic, meaning it's not personal
just
to
one.
Bunny.
Right.
It's right across, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? And so that was what inspired me further on the line of museums, that I said, okay, the society then
Needs to know.
has a responsibility, if this is the national treasure
Yeah.
of the people, because
Take
the
it-
artists,
yeah.
what the artists are doing is not in and of themselves. Well, the art form that I'm protective of, it's the people. You understand what I'm saying? So it's not a family matter. It's a
Bigger than
people
that.
matter.
It's a bigger
And
than
it goes
that.
to identity of the nation.
Nation.
Earlier we were talking about what's the benefit of nationhood. When you say you're Jamaican, what does that bring to you? Aside
Exactly.
from
So
the
I felt
homophobic-
that sui generis, you make
Yeah.
your own law.
Yes.
You see that your people or your society, you know, we're now talking about reparations and we're talking about republic. And republic and reparations means that you are going to now make your own law. You're independent.
Man. Self-determination.
But now
is a big
republic
part
is
of
a
it.
big matter.
Yes.
You understand? And it could never be amongst the parliamentarians.
To be
You
a
understand what I'm
nation.
saying? Who are in problem with themselves
Yes.
to be the thing on the matter. And reparations is front and center. What is that?
Yeah.
So is the republic going to have a reparations constitution? You understand? Are we now like how Norman Manley and whatever Smith and whatever was writing up whatever?
Negotiating as if they were.
Yeah, so
speaking
where are
only for
we now? Who
themselves.
is speaking? I don't clearly see who is speaking on my behalf. I see,
I don't see anyone speaking on my
yeah,
behalf.
the legal fraternity is, I don't know how to describe that.
It crossed your eyes a while ago.
You know?
It's like, where are they?
Where are they?
No, because
You know,
I
that's
mean,
why we are at the United
Yeah.
Nations, which is another
well,
instrument,
you have
but-
to use some forum or other at least. The United Nations, because of the breadth and scope of what it does, it has to set the high principle.
yes.
And you can associate yourself with the high principle and work backwards.
Right.
You wished that you had it going at home and you could take it to the United Nations for you to be recognized globally.
Yeah, celebrating.
Instead in Jamaica, ethnic concerns have to go overseas
In order
and
to be
come to
heard.
be in order to be given respect here. I take your point about the lawyers, because the lawyers we got it wrong. I'm not associating myself. The lawyers got it wrong for themselves.
They did. I realize, you know, just going
So-
through the system, I'm empathetic with the lawyers, basically. You know what I
see,
mean?
look at
But
it
they
now.
can't help me.
Earlier,
really.
I was saying to Pastor that I couldn't go to the Privy Council for a resolution of anything pertaining to me because I speak against them. So which lawyer now? The Jamaica Bar Association went to the Privy Council. I would have to fix my thing down here.
Right.
So integrity of
Integrity.
purpose and even philosophy comes to the fore when you yourself, when you are in trouble, you don't know where to go. And you talk about sui generis, make your own law.
Make my own law,
All
which
right,
is
so
what
we're getting the wrap-up signal.
It has
Oh
been
my
it has
God.
been a very eventful
I always love
morning.
talking to Maxine.
It's
This is
part
part
one.
one.
Yeah.
Oh,
So, but we just want to thank our guest, Maxine, as per usual. My
Yes.
queen.
Yeah.
My yes.
You show up strong in the
The
final.
final.
Yes, and I
segment,
got
so thank
some
you.
answers in reasoning with you, some answers to
Really?
myself,
Yeah.
of what is going on. And, you know,
Okay,
yeah,
wonderful.
yeah.
We're going to talk some more, but without you, you all have a wonderful weekend. You know, Thursday is the new.
Was here. On
Thursday is our Friday.
Yeah.
So we're off on our weekend. Thank you to Lasandra Harrison as well for sharing with us. Two women of great passion, and Jamaica is lucky to have them speaking on the issues that matter. And the producer.
And we'll
Thank
see
you,
what
everyone.
happens Monday when we
Yes.
come.
On
10
Mo-
o'clock, Bridget.
Yeah, on Monday, Pastor Percy will be on his own for a few days.
So you not invite me?
Yes,
In
man.
fact,
You're
one
coming
of the
to studio
days-
with me.
Yes, all right. The rain has sent me the first drop.
Blessings and as Bye.